Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I'd like to thank you for attending this event. We have two special guests here with us today. They truly don't need an introduction, but I will do my best to make a quick introduction. With us is Congresswoman Eišo, Congresswoman Eišo from California. She has been a true advocate of the Assyrians. Anytime our community has needed something, anytime there's been help, she's always been the first door we've knocked on. She has worked tirelessly for our community, and we can't begin to thank her enough for everything that she's done. I'd like to invite Mr. Carlo Genja up here for a second with me, please. Congresswoman Eišo, if you would mind stepping up here with us for 1 second, we'd like to present you with a plaque to show our appreciation for all of the wonderful work that you've done to our community. Mr. Carlo Genja, Congresswoman Eišo.
I never thought that I would be at the Library of Congress and speaking Assyrian. So this is really wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. It's always a special privilege to walk across the street from the House of Representatives and the capital of the United States to the Library of Congress. Every time I do, I marvel at the thinking of our framers and Thomas Jefferson. Imagine that he said the Congress of the United States should have its own library. And today, this is the largest repository of knowledge in the entire world. And I think it's really fitting for this meeting to be taking place at the Library of Congress. Because Assyrians have not only a culture and a heritage that is rich, but it dates back to the origins of civilization and what they as a people brought forward. So we are the descendants of that heritage and that history. I want to thank Dr. Mary Jane Deeb, who's the Chief of African and Middle Eastern the division here at the Library of Congress. I don't see her, but I want to acknowledge her role in this, and of course, for this meeting to be open to the public and Assyrian legacy from ancient civilization to modern cultural revival. It's extra special. It's not only special for me to be here with you today, but it's extra special that my colleague and brother friend, Congressman Frank Wolf, is here with us today. He has been a giant in the Congress for human rights. He has been a force to reckon with, regardless of the administration, regardless of the politics of anything. He has a voice that really, when he speaks, his magnificent voice echoes around the world. And oppressed people know the name Frank Wolf. So Frank, thank you. I miss you in the Congress. Let me just say a few words about the work that Congressman Wolf and I did together relative to our people. Back in 2008, we came together and decided that there needed to be a vehicle recognized in the House. And so we created a caucus that's called the Religious Minorities in the Middle East Caucus. And we had at least two goals in mind. First of all, we knew that members of Congress needed to be educated. They knew very little or nothing, and this is not fault or blame, they just didn't know. They didn't understand. Some were even surprised, hold on to your seats or your hats, that there were Christians in the Middle East. Imagine that. And one of my favorite responses was, where do you think Jesus was born? Trenton, New Jersey. So that was one of our goals, but also to deepen and broaden their appreciation of the ancient cultures in the Middle East and why they deserve our support in the Congress, and the nexus between the values of America that would drive us to do that. Clearly, there's a nexus between them. Now, we only had a few members to begin with, but we kept working. I think two of the most important accomplishments, and I want to acknowledge again Congressman Wolf's just fearlessness and insistence that we would secure $10 million in 2010 to fund programs that would protect Iraq's religious minorities. And secondly, we passed legislation, and it really was at his insistence, to create a special envoy for religious minorities in the Middle East. I remember Frank saying to me, Anna, if there's not a point person that is a high level, then we're just going to drift from one person to another within the State Department. How right he was about that. So I think that we've come a long way. The caucus has grown now to over 50 active members, and we've advanced, I think, very recently, a historic achievement. On March 14th of this year, the United States House of Representatives voted 393 to 0. So it was unanimous. Every member that was on the floor to vote voted for the resolution that Congressman Jeff Fortenberry and myself were the sponsors of. He is now, he has taken Frank's place as the co-chair of the caucus. Now, why is this historic? This is only the second time in the history of the United States of America that as a genocide is taking place, that we would place that definition on what is occurring. The other was Rwanda. And it defines the persecution of Christians, obviously Assyrians, because we are Christian, Chaldeans, Syriacs, Yazidis, and other ethnic and religious minorities in Iraq and Syria. 3 days later, imagine this, Frank, the State Department, I think, took a historic step as well by asserting that the persecution of Christians, Yazidis, and by ISIS is, in fact, a genocide. In a powerful and I think really poignant speech, the Secretary of State stated, quote, "The fact that Daesh just kills Christians because they are Christians, Yazidis because they are Yazidis, Shia because they are Shia. In its entire worldview, it's based on eliminating those who do not subscribe to its perverse ideology. There is no question in my mind that if Daesh succeeded in establishing its so-called caliphate, it would seek to destroy what remains of ethnic and the religious mosaic which once thrived in the region." And as I said, it's only the second time in the history of the United States of America that such a designation has been placed. But we still have an enormous amount of work to do. Today, June 10th, marks the second anniversary of the invasion of Mosul, when 500,000 people fled for their lives. Some didn't make it, and we know what happened to them. Overnight, we saw the systematic extermination of the world's oldest Christian communities by ISIS, and of course, they haven't stopped. They continue to ravage Iraq and Syria's religious and ethnic minorities. Men and boys are being killed, women and girls are being abducted, sold, raped. A genocide designation by the United States is an important step, but it's only one step. I work daily with my colleagues, both from the caucus and from across the House of Representatives. This is a nonpartisan issue. This is not Republican, Democrat. We never treated it that way. It should not be treated that way because we need to attract as much support as we can. We're working on a daily basis to continue to secure humanitarian aid. We work to bring about security and an expedited pathway to refugee status for the besieged ethnic and religious minorities in Iraq and Syria who are just suffering so immensely that there are not adjectives, I think, that fit the word suffering. We also continue to assist USAID partners in reaching the displaced populations, and Assyrians are so much a part of that reside outside of the refugee camps. And we know very especially that that describes the Assyrians and a majority, obviously, of those that are afraid to be in the camps mixed with others because of a long and troubled history. We're also working very hard to see that as the areas that are liberated, that the Kurdish regional government and the Iraqi government not only honor the return for those that were forced to flee, but also to have a safe haven. Because, well, for all of the reasons that you already know. In so many ways I'm preaching to the choir here because you are the scholars and the knowledge base of all of these issues. So I want to thank you for inviting me to be here today. I'm very proud that our history is being placed front and center at an institution that is the greatest repository of information in the world. This is the appropriate place for not only my people, but for those that have come to learn about our culture to be. And I want to thank you for the recognition from the Assyrian Alliance, the Assyrian Universal Alliance America, and I also want to end on this note of once again paying tribute to my magnificent colleague, a man of such great integrity, of faith, of a voice that has such clarity, and it comes from such a deep place in him. When members of Congress leave the Congress, most are interested in going off and making a lot of money. Because when you're in public service, you don't go into public service for money. It's not what it's about. But he has a continuum of his work, of what he did in the Congress and what he is doing now. So, Frank, bless you. Bless you. I know God has blessed you with your magnificent family and 16 grandchildren that he was talking about. So with that, I wish I could stay longer, but it's Friday. I have to get out to Dulles. The lines are excruciatingly long. It's not a good day to travel, but I need to get back to my constituents in California, and I don't want to miss the flight. So thank you. God bless all of you. Thank you to the organizations and everyone that's here.